Hi, everybody. Welcome to a live episode of the Same 24 Hours podcast and Instagram Live. Anthony Trucks is here today. I am so
Hey.
excited to talk to you, friend.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you too. I'm excited. This is good. That's that cool little setup. We got the Zoom recording. Nobody knows in the background. Sneaky, and then we're here chatting on Instagram. I like
That's
it.
right. Everywhere, everywhere. So, our mutual friend, Omar Pinto, I heard you on his podcast and
Mhm.
I was like, oh, Omar, will you introduce us?
Yes, yeah, you
And
did.
so I'm so glad he did. You have such a great story. And
Thank
I
you.
just love everything about what you're doing, revolving around identity shift. And I mean, just I was writing notes the whole time I was listening to your interview.
Awesome,
So
awesome.
I'm really excited to talk with you. So let's
Yeah,
go back to the beginning. Let's give listeners a chance to get to know you a little bit. You've got
okay.
quite the background. And yeah, just give us your elevator pitch.
Yeah, a little bit. Elevator pitch. So in the world of what I do, I help people expand who they are so they can reach their full potential in life. There's a lot of ways I do it, but one core way is I work with people's identity, which is interesting because people are like, "Well, I don't get it. Like, what exactly is that?" And that really essentially is the core driver of who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. It's just the person that's kind of flowing. And when you're able to shift into what I call your ideal identity for your dream, whether it's to have a great marriage or a great body or great business, then you start having success because what happens is the people who have those things, like if you were that person, you already have those things. And so that's kind of where my work is, but how I got here is different. I've played in the NFL. I've been an American Ninja Warrior. I have a wife and three kids and successful businesses, all this fun stuff that looks amazing on paper. But like it's the journey to get there, right? That's always the thing nobody sees. And so I grew up in crazy and foster care. I was bounced around and given away by my mom at 3 years old. Dealt with a lot of weird like abuse and torture and starvation as a kid, just some heinous things that just human beings shouldn't do. But I got through it. I was put into a family, which is my family now. I'm the only black person in an all white family besides my brother-in-law now. But I grew up in it, and like we were really poor and didn't have much diversity, and had a lot of weird different things that just kind of had me feel like I didn't matter. So anybody in life that is here now that's felt like, man, I don't feel like I matter, and I feel like the things I do aren't worthwhile. Nobody cares. Like that was my upbringing, like literally my entire life
Mm,
for a lot of years. And then at 14 years old, I got adopted by this family. So I finally knew at 14, this place that I went to bed, like I'm gonna wake up here tomorrow too. Like, and also the place that I woke up, I'm gonna go to sleep here tonight. And so it was a different sense of stability. And what it ended up being was me navigating different parts of my identity. Because by 14, I'd been the foster kid, the only black kid in an all white family, now the adopted kid. Just a lot of weird, like at school, I was like the only black kid, was also bad and always in trouble. So a lot of identities that I was harboring and kind of anchoring. And we all do this throughout life. We
mm.
unintentionally program who we are, and that person runs our life up until it breaks usually. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot of points. And then at 14, I got adopted, played football for the first time, which was a really interesting dynamic of I get to hit people and not get in trouble. But like, it
I should
was,
have played football. I probably would
you
have
should
been
have.
better off if,
Oh,
yeah,
fun.
they would taken it out in my younger years versus
It
later.
makes it amazing, doesn't it? Like it would have been much more fun and a little more different. Like, did you get hit people? But the cool thing was it gave me a sense of like I matter. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
Like for the first time in life, like oh I matter. Like that's felt good. And so that kind of progressed me into the next stage of life of like how do I navigate this stuff? And ended up my mom got diagnosed with MS, and so I started kind of figuring out that part of the world. And like now I'm the son of a sick mom, and just like different dynamics kept adding up. Eventually, like I got a chance to play football on scholarship, which is really interesting because I started out by being really bad. I figured it out and got a scholarship to play football. Went to the University of Oregon on scholarship. I got a little helmet back here. If you guys see that helmet there, and man, it was cool because I got to kind of figure out like what does the next level of life look like. And statistically, I shouldn't have been there. Like any prison in America,
Mm.
75% of the inmates are former foster kids. Like I'm not set up to do very well. Was not supposed to be in the cards for me, but man, I figured it out and had my son at 20 years old, my high school sweetheart, met my real dad at 21. So I didn't do everything the smart way, and I had some weird things pop up, but navigated it. And 4 years later, was blessed to have opportunity to play in the NFL. Got the NFL. NFL stands for not for long, so I was in. Third year in, I tore my left shoulder playing against the Philadelphia Eagles with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and my career was ended. So I ended up going home, and life started. And what's crazy is
Mm.
most people are like, oh, former NFL, like life must have been great. No, that's not how it works. Like massive crisis. Anytime, like you
Yeah.
said, like a kid to college, I'm sure you've experienced it in terms of your athletic career. But when you've been doing this thing for so long and you no longer can do it, it tears away at the fabric of who you are. This is
Yes.
why identity was always kind of like this thing I was destined to navigate. Because then I come home and it's like, well, I'm not the football player anymore. I'm married. I have two more kids and I'm never present. So then I have like this family that I love, but then it gets torn apart because I'm a non-present husband. I'm at this gym that I'd started up after football from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., trying to make something of myself again. And it really just became this hindrance on life overall. And next thing you know, I'm this, a little bit out of shape. Business is falling apart. Bad dad, divorce. Just like I was literally after football, about 2 years later, sleeping in a 500 square foot studio apartment with my kids on an air mattress next to my bed, like my three
Mm.
kids. It's just like a crazy place to be. Relationships I tried to start weren't working. I just was in a funk. What ended up happening is I had this moment where like I was down and like the down and outs, man. Like prior to this, I'd had like some suicidal moments, to be totally honest. I get to a point where later in life, I'm like, I got past that and I was trying to figure out what to do. And then my mom passes away. I'm in the room holding her hand and she takes her final breaths and MS takes her life. And I was like, man, I don't want to look at my life and look at it later and be like, man, I could have done more. Because my mom passed at 47. It was this weird thing of
Wow.
realization. And I was 30 at the time. She was a young mom. And the reality was, like, she passed and 30 years old felt like it happened quickly. I was like, there's a possibility I'm not even going to be here as long as I've already been here. Like that scared me. I was like, oh, well, like, I can't keep going through the paces here and not taking advantage of living a better life. And so because her body like wasn't capable of reaching her potential or stole it from her, I was like, I'm going to make sure I do something. And so I just kept pushing again and found that I had this unique, weird way of handling the shifts of life. Like I just do. I don't know what it is, but I handle things in a creepy, weird way with optimism and perspective and logic that seems illogical, that puts you in position just to tackle things. And so I realized that's a weird superpower of mine. I solve things, I figure things out. And so little by little, I started fixing my own life. So I went from being divorced for 3 years to back remarried to my ex-wife in an amazing marriage. I'm a present father. I have successful businesses. I'm in shape. Like I do the things that were incredibly hard. So that's why I teach an area that I know. I've broken it, I fixed it. Here's how I fixed it. So now I teach people how to have a shift to that ideal identity for their dream. And it happens in a lot of speaking and coaching and teaching and these kind of things.
Right, right. Oh, I love it. I love it. And you're so right. So I was an Olympic style weightlifter in
Mhm.
high school, and then I like just quit. I just quit at 19, walked away, didn't deal with it, but
Yeah.
never really thought, oh man, I lost an identity. I lost who I was. I just started drinking. And I
Oh,
just
there you go.
started, creating other destructive, and I ate and I got up to 250
Yeah.
pounds. And it was like, and it never
Wow.
occurred to me until I'm 40 now. It never occurred to me until like 3 years ago that
Mhm.
like, oh, I never dealt with that loss because that was who I was. Like I was going to be
Yeah.
this person and then I
Mhm.
didn't make it and crash. Okay, well, I'll go be a lawyer. I don't really want to do that either. Crash. And
Yeah.
it was just all these different identities that developed and they were never the right one. So can you talk
Yeah.
about like how the shift from wrong identity or, wrong identity to wrong identity sort of
Yeah.
built you and showed you the right identity that you wanted?
Yeah. Well, I don't even know. Here's the thing. It's not even that's wrong identity, but I think of it kind of like a computer. So we're on these computers right here, and these computers have software. The phones have software. I don't even know where to look right now. I got the computer and the phone. Oh, look,
Wherever you
everybody.
want. It's your world. We're just
So
living in it. It's fine.
yeah. So at the end of the day, like they have these operating software, right? It's the hardware, the hardware the computer runs, and this operating software is programs that run on that operating software, right? So we're using Instagram, we're using Zoom. If the operating software couldn't handle the bandwidth, the program would bog down, would crash. And so what happens in the computer world is a notification comes up, hey, update this, update your software, hey, update this program, update. And some people go, I ain't got time for that, Ant, and they snooze it,
Mm,
and they snooze it.
yeah.
And then what happens after a while, well, the programs start bogging down and Zoom won't open up, or it crashes, or it just sticks and it freezes and it force quit and send an alert to Apple. And it's like, and then eventually you go, I'm just going to open in safe mode. I got to get the meeting done. But you realize it's like half functionality. And eventually you're like, all right, I'll set this thing up. I'll download the information. I'll upload to the system and I'll just get this thing going. I got to sit there and watch the clock and it's time consuming. I do it, computer runs smooth. Boom,
Yeah.
programs work, bang, bang, right? Awesome. Life is the exact same way. So it's not that we have these wrong identities, but we have an identity that was programmed years before. Like we're in 2020, brand new hardware with Windows 95 identity software.
I had Windows 95 for
I've been
way
there
too
too. I might
long.
have, yeah,
I
we
mean, I'm
all,
with you. Actually,
We
I
all
think it
do.
was the time I was drinking really heavily that I didn't update from Windows 95. Like, let's think
I did
about
that.
this.
I used to go to the gym in the morning, come home, finish a 6 pack of Blue Moon, go back to work, and be like, "Be healthy, everybody." You know, like this is
Right.
bad,
It
funky
had fruit
times.
on it. Didn't it have an
It
orange?
did. It has orange. You put an orange in it. You know, it's all these things. And
It's a
so for
snack,
us,
but
it's
not a garnish.
exactly. And life wise, what ends up happening is essentially what I look at is like, all right, cool. Well, what makes sense to me is we're in these situations where hardware needs an update, and this notifications like, hey, honey, you need to be a better husband, you need a better wife, be a better
Yeah.
dad, work on your body. Like, and you're like, I don't want to do all that. I want to keep eating. And eventually, things start crashing. The marriage falls apart. The business sucks. You start losing your job. You know, you can't stay in shape. You have bad relationship with your friends. They're telling you stuff you don't want to hear. And little by little, then you start noticing, like, I'm just gonna open in safe mode. Everybody get away. I'm gonna do me. And then you're not
Yeah.
fully functional. It's just now it's like you're operating in half mass. And eventually you say, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and just stop this, and I'm gonna go and download the information. I'm gonna hear the thing that I've been trying to avoid. And once I download that, let me upload the actions into my life to actually have things be different. And that process, just like a computer, is long and it's uncomfortable and it's just hard. But once it's updated, well, dang it, now your life just starts spinning. Everything's moving smooth. And then when the new updates come in, you're like, yeah, cool. I'll update that. I'll take a day or an hour. Or I'll have
Yeah.
this date with my wife, right? And it keeps the system operating smooth. And so it's not that somebody has a bad identity or anything wrong. There's not. It's just you now should intentionally update that thing. And it doesn't mean you have to be broken to do this, by the way. There are people I work
Right.
with who aren't broken. It's not like they're like everything's falling apart. Some people are like, you know what? I've been trying to hit this next tier of income, or I'm trying to get this new job. I just can't seem to, I can't break through. I'm stuck right now. I'm already had success, but I want the next level.
Right.
The next level doesn't come at the next book that you read, or it doesn't come at the next course you buy. It comes at the next level of who you are as a human. Like I have clients who I bring them on. They want to raise level of, like, say an executive wants to climb, and I've had clients I've worked with their bosses and found out, like, hey, this person's got all the right things in place, but there's a level where they need to be seen as an executive at a VP level before they can become a VP.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with the person, a solid human being, but it's like there's a level they need to upgrade their identity to be seen there. It's not a
Right.
book, it's not new tasks. It's like I need to upgrade, and there's different level of what that is. But when they upgrade the humanity and the identity, now everything starts spinning, and then they have this area where I call, like, success becomes second nature. You do the
Yeah.
things that successful people do without even thinking about it. It's just like, it's just who I am. How do you do that? Meredith, how is it possible? It's just who I am. What do you mean?
It's
And
just what
that's
I
the level
do.
we want to get people. Exactly.
It's just what I do. No, I love the point you bring up that until you're willing to kind of see the truth. I talk about this in my book too, that we have to remove our head from the sand
Hmm.
because there's nothing but lies and like lost dreams down in the
Yeah.
sand. Like you have to
Hmm.
get your head out of the sand. You have to kind of see where you are.
Yeah.
And that is a really painful process that I think a lot of us are trying to avoid. And there's a
Oh yeah.
fly in here and I keep swatting at it. But
It's all right.
it's that whole we don't want to see the truth, so we avoid it. But like you said, at some point your Windows 95 system is going to crash
Hmm.
and you've got to deal with the truth. So what is some
Yeah.
of your best advice for someone who's really got what we all perceive when we're at the base of a mountain, right? And we're looking up and we're like, oh my gosh, this is huge. This truth is too much. What is
Hmm.
your advice for how to begin?
No, there's a lot of advice. So the thing is, for me, advice is one thing, but I like to give processes, proven things that I know science shows to be true. Because a lot of people do give advice, and it's just kind of like, oh, my buddy said this. That sounds good. Let's go ahead and share that information. So one, I'm gonna give you stuff that is simplified, but it's complex, simplified information, right? So there's a process, a method I use called the shift method. It's literally the only method in the world that works on identity level to do the work that I do. And essentially, the thing for me is, like, if somebody's in a place where they are trying to start the process of attaining their most ambitious desire, and do it like within the month, right? Let's say I want to start working towards making some progress this month. It's not going to, like I said, not a book. It's not a new thing. It's like going back and going through a process that allows you to see certain things and unpack them and move forwards. So here's the process called shift method. 3 stages. They're deep, but it's three overarching: see, shift, sustain. So if anybody's been in a place where, like, hey, I needed to do something, be better, we'll start working. We'll start doing the shift work, I call it. I'll go and I'll get the workout. I'll buy my food, and I'll start doing that, or I'll start reading that book, or I'll start typing away at this thing, or just absorbing this information. It's the work that we assume 100% assumes going to make this end result come to fruition. This goal I want to reach. But there's a lot of people who end up going through the process and they get to the back end and they're exhausted, but they're still nowhere further ahead. The
Mm,
statement comes in of, like, I thought I'd be farther ahead by now. Like, why is it I'm not? And what happens is most people skip the first stage I mentioned, which is C. All of us have this programming that's going on, but we're not aware of it. Like it's like the blind spot. It's there, but nobody knows what's going on, and nobody shines a light in there. Because sometimes I don't want to see what's in that area. Like that's
Right.
I don't want
I
to
don't
see
want to
that.
look. I don't want to know.
Right? Like it took me a lot of years to own, like, all right, my marriage fell apart because I was non-present husband. It was always her fault. You ruined it. But then I was like, oh wait, I was a bad husband. Like that was me shining the light, and it sucked. Now I could have easily tried to be a good husband and tried, but I never would have really known what the right works would have had to been for me to really be a different level guy. And so what you got to do is you got to go see the things that we really don't want to see, but are like the invisible chains holding us back without us knowing it. It's like we're running on slick ground with this chain. We're just, why am I so tired? I'm not getting anywhere. Well, you haven't looked at the chain behind you, and that could
Yeah.
be the way that your parents taught you to communicate, what they said love was, what you believed a career was, what you thought support looked like for somebody. It's a lot of things that we don't actually see, but we're just operating off that unintentional programming that happened as a person. And what happens is the first thing is once you've seen that, well, now the next stage can come in because now you know one of two things. Well, actually, two things. One is you know what's been holding you back. And two, now you know where you can go. Because most people don't dream at full speed. They dream
Mm,
slow. I got a dream, I got an idea, but this doesn't give me that heart palpitating excitement that speed gives me, right? And so I got speed bumps if I don't have time, I don't have money. But when you remove those, oh, I'm off and shooting. Now what work do I do? And then there's this statement that if anybody's taking notes, take these notes. But here's the thing: what you create creates you. A lot
yes.
of the time in life, people will they will fight for what
Mm.
they deserve. We'll always fight for what we deserve. If I
Oh,
deserve the last cookie,
that's a
you
good
better
one.
believe, right? I'm gonna fight for that cookie. The problem is people won't fight for what they don't think they deserve. So if they don't somewhere inherently believe that, well, I don't deserve that job, and I don't deserve this relationship, if they deep believe that, they're not going to fight for it. And so what happens is people, they'll think they deserve something based on what they can see that they have earned. If I see I put the work in, oh, better believe I'm not falling short. Like, that's my job. I put the work in the time, I'm getting that promotion, right? And so what happens is people, they don't do the work. And here's what happens. They wonder why later on they don't have that thing. Well, you didn't fight for it. You didn't think you deserved it. But what you create creates you. Think about creation. It's a process. It's long and it's ugly. Like making a sandwich can sometimes be ugly. If you get like my 5-year-old kids when they were 5-year-olds making sandwiches, right? But then
Yeah.
like creating a great marriage is ugly. Creating a great body, it's a lot of puking and sweating. It's ugly. When you look in the mirror, your hair's all over the place, right? Not mine, but
Right.
yours, I'm assuming, because I don't have hair like that. But it's all over the place. And so what happens at this point where you're like, all right, when I get through making this, creating this over time,
Yes.
there's no way I get to the back end and say, like, this is who I am. I'll fight for
Right.
that. Right. I
Right. Because you
deserve
put
that.
in the work. It's the whole chicken before the egg. Like you're like, how do I get motivated? Is it chicken for the egg? It's both. Like it's chicken and egg.
Yeah.
You got to do both. You got to
You know what I'm
work. And
saying?
then it's like,
Chicken sandwich with eggs
yeah.
on it. Do it. Right. You gotta get to work.
Yeah.
But
And
that's
it
how it
is
happens.
ugly because like I'm on 3-a-day workouts right now. And
Ooh.
my husband's like, are you going to shower today? I'm like, after my third workout,
Yeah,
because
that's how I
it's
am.
like I can't shower 3 times. I've changed clothes twice. But I came in from my run before I got on here, and he's like, you really smell. And I said, well, I'm
Yeah.
going to go shower now. And he's like, whoo. But that's
Yeah.
part of it. It's like if you can live with yourself and stink all day
Yeah.
long for your dream, like it becomes part of your reality. You're like,
It's who
I'm
you are.
stinking for this, and this is who I am. So
Yeah.
deal with
And you know what's interesting is that there's a pain to thinking about that, like, oh, I got to work and earn that. It's like the thought of the overwhelming willpower it takes. But then I lead with this kind of thing. Let's say that there has to be a certain level of, like, say, there's 10 things that got to get done. Well, if the 10 things that got to get done are overwhelming to you, it's hard to get through them. So most people, they'd be like, all right, the beginning of the day, I have to, you ever heard of the decision fatigue tank? Like we have this decision fatigue. So
right.
think about you get the day started. Let's say there's 10 things got to get done. Well, what happens? I start the day and it's like, all right, I got to decide, do I get the workout? Do I eat the food? Do I write those emails? Do I answer those calls? Do I have that hard conversation? Do I? Well, 3 hours into the day, it's like, man, I'm done deciding. I don't want to decide anymore. So, we got maybe 4 things done. There's still 9 to go, 6 to go. I can count, I promise. I got, 6 to go. But then I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. So that person does it tomorrow. Well, here's the other
Yeah.
person. This person comes in because they've been working. Eventually, it doesn't just become this thing I did, but it's like, it's who I am. Like, I would feel bad if I didn't do that. Like, this is part of my identity, Like, I can't miss out. What would they think of me? I'll look stupid. So it's not a willpower. It's like a drawing of like this. This is who I am to do it. And here's what happens in the back end. Well, when you get to 3 or 4 exercises in or movements in, or, let's say 4 different tasks in, it's who I am to catch the workout. It's who I am to get the meal. It's who I am to write the emails. I have the hard conversation. This is who I am. I didn't
Hmm.
have to decide. So when I get to number 4, where you were deciding, you're done. I got like the full tank damn near left. I just keep
Right.
going. So now I get to all 10 things done every day because it's who I am to do these things.
Yes.
And now at the end of the year, I got double the work you got done. And
Right.
lo and behold, they're successful without feeling drained. I call it goofy greatness. The people who were the greatest, I played in the NFL, some of the greatest athletes in the world, they were just goofy dudes. Like they were just off the cuff, and like, how so loose, so loose. And you know why?
Yes.
Like I do a 3-hour workout and I'd be like, man, I'm done. I'm gonna go home and chill. Like 3 hours, I'm gonna go play a round of golf. I'm gonna keep getting done, and I'm gonna play some bad one with the kids. Like it was normalcy. They've been doing it for so
Yeah.
long. It's just and so it's like where I was like, oh, I'm taxed. They're like, oh, it's just the beginning of my day. Let's keep going. And that is something, like you said, you have to earn that, and it doesn't happen without you doing it. So you grind, you put the work in a little bit of time, and little by little, all of a sudden, like, oh, this is who I am now. And then it becomes
Right.
easy to operate at that level.
Right. And one of the things I realized just recently, I was a corner cutter.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize this about myself. I mean, I guess I knew it somewhere deep inside, but my
Yeah.
identity was I get everything done, but deep inside, I'm a corner cutter. So, and how this
Hmm.
showed up is I was doing burpees. I was doing like 3 sets of 12, or 3 sets of nine. And I would just do nine and be like, that's
Yeah.
fine. And it wasn't even that big of a deal. But then I
No,
thought,
but it
where am
matters.
I cutting corners in my life? And I
Yeah.
started looking around and I was like, oh my gosh, I would cut a corner just for the
Hmm.
hell of it, like just
Yeah.
because I could. And I realized I just have this sneaky trait that I want to like be all great on the outside, but then I just want to sneak and do this. And I thought, this is why. This
Yeah.
is why I don't have my identity was a sneak. And
Hmm.
so when I thought, oh no, I am not about this life, I am changing that. I'm hitting every burpee. If I write, I'm doing 5 sets of 15, whatever, I'm doing 5 sets of 15, maybe six
Hmm.
sets of 15. And I shifted my identity
Yeah.
back in April. It's just very recent. And
Good.
but it's changed me. I'm like, I'm the person that does the workout that I write. So I'm
Yeah.
writing my own workout and then cheating.
I
Who
I
does that?
I get it. I totally grasp it. I think that's interesting is those are the things that compound. Like
Yeah.
I've in my life I've never cut a rep on a workout that I wrote, and that goes with me. So I'm not 5 years from now I'm not going to do it because of 10 years from then. Before then, it's just this compounding, and when you do it enough, it doesn't get hard. It's not the hard. It's just normal. It's just
Yeah.
normal. And then
Right.
when it's your new normal, because we're all talking about getting to a new normal. When you get to a new normal, but it's up here. Well, now you start just ripping things out. And now I call it achieving an autopilot. People look at you and go, how'd you do that? How do you do that? How do you not? It's like
Right.
it's so ingrained in me. I call it pinky finger power. So I did American Ninja Warrior, and I found out that in training, like the grip of your hand is like stronger at the pinky level, just more muscles on the side of the body or side of the wrist. And I didn't realize that, but a lot of us have this insignificant like thing that we do, but we're incredibly strong at it. And it's just like your pinky is insignificant, but so strong overall. And so for a lot of us, we don't realize like we're trying to get stuff to be the pinky finger power. Because what ends up happening is it's just normal for you to do these things, no big deal. Everybody else, like, how do you do it? Like, I don't know, I'm just strong and creepy, amazing. You just built into it. That's what it is. And so anybody can do it. Here's the thing. We're not special. This is not unique. This
Right.
is human psychology and neuroscience. The way that we work, we can reprogram our identity. We can shift it. And
Right.
so for people listening, this is not something that's like far fetched. This is done. I do it with clients all the time. It's really, it boils down to like a legitimate, when I get done with work, we take it down to this, a planner that we just put things in place and
Yes.
operate tons of planning. Because the problem is people have planners and no idea how to plan.
Tons of planners, stacks and
Right?
stacks of planners, colorful tabs, and they're empty
People send me
because you
planners
don't
all
know
the
how to
time.
plan.
No idea to
Right.
plan. So we structure out. I literally architect the ideal identity with people, and then we have them understand how to create that, how to activate it in life. And that's what changes the game. People make more money, they have more time, they have a better body. It's not anything more than like I'm trying to get you to not just do those things, but be the person who does those things.
Right. And where is the resistance? I mean, I think deep down we all know the person we want to be.
Yeah.
Where does the resistance come from? Like in your experience, is
Mm.
it really just a series of years and habits? Because like I'll have clients and say, let's think about the body you want to have 1 year from now. And
No,
they're
do it
like,
now.
I got nothing. And I'm like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? What do you want to look like? And they're like, well, I can't achieve it, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's different. You
You
know what it is?
know?
There's the one's homeostasis, and we can change quick. It just takes pivotal moments sometimes for things to happen, and you just turn on like I'm done with this and I'm going right. So
Right.
that's part of it. But the biggest thing I find is that we all have these aspects in our hearts and our heads of like, man, it's just going to be an overwhelming process. It's too long. I don't see the
Yeah.
clear path. And realistically, it's not rocket science that changes things. It doesn't take multiple years. It takes you making a decision and putting one foot in front of the other. And so the resistance I typically find is the ego becomes a massive resistance for people. It's the part of me that thinks that for me to admit that I have something to improve upon means there's something wrong with me right now. That's not the
The
case.
ego.
Ego's big. I call it EGO. Everyone's the greatest obstacle. It's a monster, man. There is a positive ego. It does exist, and it's a part of a lot of us how we get our great things done. Like I'm a great dad and a great husband because part of my ego is you're a great dad and a great husband. I protect that with my actions. So a lot of people they get to the point of one, they don't have ideas that are big enough and dreams that are big enough, and then two, they don't think like this can start changing now in a moment, and it progresses in over time, and their ego gets in the way. Because the thing is, if you don't give yourself permission to like be bad, then you never give yourself permission to improve. Like you
Yeah.
accept. Like part of my process, the C stage is accept, dissect, discover. I have to accept that I'm crappy in some area. And that's okay.
Mm,
Accept it though, damn it. Like there's something off.
right.
Dissect it. Why is it crappy? Like you said, I'm a person that cuts corners. Dissect. Why is that part of who I am? Why does it
I don't
operate that?
know.
Why am I thinking that way? Right? When we dissect it, and I do this as a process, I do with that, and then we discover one, why I'm here and how to get out of here, and two, where am I going to go? Because now that I've dissected, they're like, oh, okay, cool. Let me discover the next stages to get past all that to go somewhere cool. But most people don't do the sex stage or accept stage or any of that. They just get to the point of like, I'm just going to work and do some things. But like you said, they can't see. That's like they're on one side of a rushing river and look at that other side of the bank. I'm like, I want to get to that bank river and I don't want to cross it. I can't. I'm just not going to do it. It's just impossible. I'm sit over here and stay chubby and maybe get eaten by a bear. And then I walk up and I go like, hey, let me turn your shoulders. See that bridge over there? Go cross the bridge. Oh, that's how I get there. When you can create the bridge for
Right.
people, now they'll move. But most people either don't trust the bridge because everybody else has told them there's a bridge and they fell in the water, or someone hasn't walked the path. So the bridge ends up being like this super longer path because the person doesn't know how to really cross the bridge. So you got to
Right.
find somebody you trust and who really knows how to cross the bridge for you.
Yeah. So let's shift this into a discussion on race and
We can do that.
how to take your method, like the acceptance. Okay, I accept that I have some racial bias and I have some work
Yeah.
I need to do. That is a part that a
That's people don't
lot
want to
of
accept that.
people do not want to accept. But
No, they don't.
I have seen a lot of people who have lately accepted that, and there's good growth. And then I've seen people that just stick their head back in the sand. So,
Yeah.
on where does desire, come with acceptance, the desire to change?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
well,
It's
go ahead, go ahead.
I think part of it has to do with the groups you're in because we're humans based on acceptance. And so for me, the way I look at it is if my social group doesn't adjust or I don't choose to change it, then I'll go towards whatever allows me to be accepted by humanity. So some people around a group of people that are like, all right, they're all accepting, I'm going to stay in this corner here. But if you threw somebody, and let's just use a real example. If I had a group of black guys and a group of white guys, and one of the white guys over there was super racist, but he didn't have to stay with us. Like he just stayed with people, he'd be protected in his group. He wouldn't have to change or adjust his views. But if I dropped him in, I don't know, the middle of Africa, like you got to be here for a year, think he's still spewing that crazy? Hell no. He's just not going to do
Right,
it. He may, but he'll spew it with no tongue eventually, and he'll,
right.
get buried. So the thing is, like, we gotta, if we notice there's something off, we gotta be proactive and adjust our groups. And so
Oh, that's good.
whatever they expect of you, then no, that lo and behold, that's my tippity top. Now it's hard to put that into racial aspects overall because there's no broad stroke, but I get there's a lot of things. Like I have a really good group of friends. I grew up in a predominantly all white area, and I've had some really deep conversations with all of them. And there's some perspectives of like, what, there's just this doesn't exist. There's no systemic racism. Legislature changed that doesn't exist, and no sympathy for the minority. It's a cultural thing. They got to fix their culture. Obviously, talking to the one black guy that's their friend sometimes.
Right.
And I grasp and I start seeing what's going on, and I realize that some of the things they say could be misconstrued as being racist humans. And I really get to the root of it. I'm like, oh, wait, it's not that they're racist, because they're not, genuinely not. I've never in my life, I've known some since fourth grade, never in my life have I even heard anything remotely close to being racist. However, the outside world would view it as that because they're protecting themselves.
Yes.
And what they're doing is, it's like the view is, well, if I accept this thing is whatever, and I'm on this side, then I have to accept that I'm wrong. I did something wrong, but I didn't do anything wrong. It's not what happened. So no, I'm not going to accept that side. And there's this complete battle against the perspective of who I am and what I do. And so it's really, they're protecting their identity of not wanting to feel bad about the things that are going on. So they have to position themselves in opposition of it. So it's like this thought that, it's this battle. And so they're fighting a position of me opposite of this, but these people are seeing it as them protecting racism, which they're not. So I get this dynamic. It's really difficult because on both sides, there's a lot of weirdness.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, I'm just absorbing that for a minute. So the identity of, if someone does, like your friends, for example, they
Mhm.
have to have sort of identity shift
Yeah,
to really come to grips with the systemic racism and
it would
being
have to
your
be.
friend.
Hmm.
And like, it's like, okay. And so what does that look like? Is it, I want to educate myself more. I want to understand more. So how, when someone feels like kind of scared, but they
Hmm.
know they need to make an identity shift, like for example, as a white
Yeah.
person, you need to open your eyes and you need to wake up, but you're scared because you think there's a pie
Hmm.
and you're going to lose your piece of it, but everyone gets their own pie. But
Yeah, it's fine.
how can you start to shift when you really want to, even though you're scared?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, like you said. It's an incredibly difficult thing because what has to happen is the ego has to be shredded a little bit, and it sucks because nobody wants to have a chink in their
Mm,
armor because then they don't. But it's funny because these same people, they'll be in, what's called political groups, like, accept this. As a Republican, I have to accept this because Republicans accept this, and they don't realize, like, you're just getting indoctrinated and programmed based on whatever you've already accepted as part of your identity. And so to start this process would be to go back to the very beginning thing I said. You need to check out the updates. The world's pouring a lot of updates right now. Like, hey guys, this exists. Hey, no, it doesn't. We're snoozing it. It's like, hey man, like, something's got to adjust
yeah.
and change. So what happens is, it's going to have to be this perspective of, all right, let me accept that for a possible moment in time that something is off. What if I was to dissect that? Why would that be? And it leads you down a path of just accepting that something might be off. Doesn't mean that you have to accept there's something wrong with you, but accept the situation, because when you can see something, well, now I can start working on the puzzle. If it's a dark room and I pick up a Rubik's Cube, I can't see the Rubik's Cube. I can spin it all day long and never solve it. But if I can see it, I can, oh, okay, let me play with this a little bit. And they may find some different pathway. But the thing is, you're going to have to, in the beginning, deal with the pain of accepting that there's something that probably was going on that you didn't aid. Because here's the thing, we're talking about the race aspect. White America didn't do this on purpose. Not the current white America, majority, right? I grew up in an all-white family.
Not
We were
current.
poor. I watched all this. It's not like anybody was like, yeah, condemn all black people. But there is this systemic thing that took place years and years before that just, it's been this realm. And so I think white America was born into, it's like a fish being born into water. You don't realize you're in water. It's just what you have. And so
Right.
now there's this
We don't see
position
it.
of
We
feeling
don't see
like,
it.
oh man, yeah, yeah. What did I do? And to accept that there's something wrong would mean that I have to, yeah, like you said, part of my pie is gone. And did I do something wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. No, you guys are all crazy. I didn't do anything wrong. And it's like, no. You didn't do anything wrong. Your ancestors did. Society did. Or society let it all ride. But there is a responsibility. Mark Manson, I think it is, has a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F, right?
Yeah.
And what it talks about, it's like, in life, if something happens, it may not be your fault. Just go back and be the tree and produce different or better fruit.
Ah, I love that. Be the tree.
Be the tree,
Be
damn
the
it.
tree. That's good. That's good. Okay. Well, so my podcast is called The Same 24 Hours, which means that we all have the same 24 hours in our day, but it's what we
Yeah.
do with it that makes the difference between our health and happiness and success. So,
Hmm.
what is something that you do on a daily basis that you think really anchors you, contributes to your health, happiness, and success, and you
Hmm.
can just point to be like, that's part of my identity, that's who I am, but this is
Yeah.
a thing that I really do and it's important to me.
I legit, every night at dinner time, we sit down as a family and we have this conversation of good day, bad day, or good part, bad part of the day. It depends on who says it, but it's the same thing. And it sounds odd, but here's the thing. for me, like that's shutdown time. The phone's off the table. There's nothing going on. And we get to sit down and discuss the good parts and bad parts of the day. And as much as a simple thing, it's like a good anchoring for me. I grew up in a world where I didn't have that. Like our dinner table was always covered with stuff we never ate as a family. I can't even imagine one hand memories of us sitting down outside of a restaurant at home at a table and talking. So it's a unique dynamic for me in doing this. We've been doing it for years, but I'll be at the table. It feels odd. I want to I have this pull to get up. This is, it's weird. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it. But then I love it because it also lets me know, like, this is why I do the work I do. So I can be home. I can have the meal. I can cook the meal. I can prepare these things. And so it's like the things I do on a consistent basis, most people would assume is like he hustles, he drives. Yeah, I do. But I do all that so that I can have this time and be centered and be focused, have more good stories come out of my kids' mouths than bad stories, have a better relationship with my family and my wife. Like I have all these things because of what I do here in our time. I create, I coach, I do it. But when the laptop closes and I go in the house. And I get to spend time. I get to have dinner and have a meal, and it all cycles. Because here's what's difficult for a lot of people: they wonder why everything just seems like, man, I'm getting in an argument with my wife, and then I can't get work done at work, and then because you go to work and you get distracted, you don't focus. So then you go home, and then you're still thinking about work while at home, and then you get into a fight. And you go back to work and feel guilty, so you get distracted, you don't get any work done, and you go back to home and you don't have anything. And it's a vicious cycle. And so for me, it's like I focus on like there is a chicken and egg conversation, but I think part of it is you can start at both sides. I'm at home and I want to be here. Don't think about work. Just be with the family. And if I just be with the family, I'm going to be more at peace. And if I go back to the work, I have more peace. I have more focus. I can not get distracted. And that can start the process. Or if I'm at work and I'm distracted and I know my wife's fighting, well, what does she want? Time. Just so be at work and get stuff done today. Get your egg timer out. Set it. Like get everything organized. Like I use this thing all the time. Get organized to where what happens, you're done. And then you go home and then you're present with your wife and the process starts. There's a lot of different ways to have everything kind of move smooth, but you've got to start thinking about like, what are you doing that are the things that have both sides or all sides organized and smoothly flow? And that's part of my identity. My identity is I'm a family man. Like that's my core. It's my root. I'm giddy and I'm happy and I'm playful. I'm also mean dad when I gotta be, like clean your stinking room, right? But I'm dad. and like I'm even starting like parts of my brands where I'm telling people like I'm gonna be the fit guy, but like I'm fit dad, not like fit 25-year-old in a yacht doing backflips. Like that's not my jam, you know? But like that's my core. And so because of that, I go to the backside and say, what are all the things I've got to work for that to be a viable, desirable identity that I can have people say that's the guy for that. Because for me, it's about full potential and balance of life.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for your time. Tell everyone where the best place to follow you is. Is it here on Instagram? Is it somewhere else?
Don't follow me home. It'd be weird. I'll call the cops. No,
no stalkers.
No stalkers. Instagram, and Anthony Trucks, or go to anthonytrucks.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was great.
Very welcome. Enjoyed hanging out with you, chatting. It's cool. I like it. Thank you.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.